some new trends evolving in the current business environment?
Well, Brian, 2080 Strategy Execution, which is the organization I work with, we help individuals and organizations globally improve workplace performance. And what we're seeing is that most work today in organizations, whether they're large global organizations, whether they're startups, whether they're government agencies or even universities, most work today is getting done as project-based work, so groups and teams of individuals. And as we look to the new year, there's a variety of different trends that we've identified in some of our research. Three in particular that really we are bringing attention to. One is that organizations are increasingly being asked to be more lean and flat. Another is there's a whole notion of the need to be more innovative and creative. There's something called design thinking, which is taking hold. And then certainly as the workforce is evolving, millennials are more and more becoming critical to the workforce, and also that has implications not only for leadership but for organizations in general.
And so what are those successful companies doing that sets them apart?
Around lean and flat organizations, I think it really starts with understanding that having a clear ideation or vision about who you are and where you're headed, even though things are changing so rapidly, is really important, and pushing decision-making to the edges. So that drives a need for both flexibility but structure in organizations, more and more empowerment of individuals and leaders further down in the mid-levels of the organization. And some of the requirements for that is that you really need to have a clear understanding, and it's incumbent on leaders of those organizations to help provide a clear understanding and direction so that people feel more comfortable being able to make decisions. It's also critical that there's a sense of building trust in the organization, because what's being really expected now is people will take more risks because they may be in positions either of authority or decision-making that they haven't been in previously, and with that comes hesitancy, but also opportunity for individuals.
Right. And what should business leaders be aware of in 2016?
Well, I think in addition to these organizations are changing and being expected to that, there's a professor that I have the opportunity to work with, Stanford University Center for Professional Development. One of the professors there, actually two, Bob Sutton and Huggy Rao, have a recent book called Scaling Up Excellence. And they talk very much, whether it's in a startup environment or in a large-scale business, about some of the ways that organizations really need to focus on building their business in this rapidly changing environment. I think spreading a mindset is one thing that comes to mind. They talk about spreading a mindset and not just a footprint. And so, there are companies like Facebook, for instance, who focus very much attention on bringing new people on board, but also creating and maintaining a culture that keeps people focused. You actually walk into their new building, and by design, it resembles the original buildings on the inside that they started with in Palo Alto, California, so there's not a lot on the walls. It's very much to keep people focused and keep that energy around. We're a startup even as they've become much larger. So a big piece for leaders is to think about their culture and their organization.
All right, and how can these leaders and their organizations become more collaborative and inspirational for their employees?
Yeah, I think inspiration is really critical. I mentioned one of the key pieces about millennials. More and more millennials who are defined as those born roughly between 1980 and 95 are becoming the majority of employees in many organizations, and certainly will become the majority in the next 5 years or so. And so I think it's important that leaders keep a few things in mind. One is by pushing responsibility to the edges that we've talked about. The other is it's important, and this has been documented as a millennial characteristic, but frankly what we're finding is that it's not just unique to millennials anymore. It really transcends organizations from top to bottom. And that's really helping people make the connection, understanding what their work is about, how what they're doing contributes to the organization, and not just asking people and telling people what to do. So there is a responsibility to make this connection, if you will, between the espoused strategy or direction and actually what people are working on, and help make those connections.
And so how can these businesses, how can they encourage innovation?
Innovation is something I think I've had the opportunity recently to talk at a CIO, Chief Information Officer Leadership Forum. And, it was interesting. There was a discussion. I was on a panel with CIOs from some major high-tech companies, and there was a discussion about having centers of innovation, which many organizations, particularly information technology groups within organizations, have, and expecting them to own the innovation. And then the CIO of Mentor Graphics said their expectation is that all individuals need to have this mindset. And so they're actually looking to not only hire but develop and support the skills for individuals to think more openly and innovatively. Design thinking is a technique. Again, at Stanford there's something called the D School, the Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design. But design thinking has become something that's emerged as a methodology, a loose methodology that started in the product world, but now is being applied throughout organizations, whether you're in HR, whether you're in a project management environment, because there really is this requirement that people think about how to be more creative, how to be more innovative, but within the confines and structure of their organizations.
All right. Well, Mr. Wasserman, I really appreciate your time today. Real quick, just for the tape, can you say your first, last name, and title, please?
Yeah, Tim Wasserman, Chief Learning Officer for 2080 Strategy Execution. And if you're interested in more information about our trends, that can be found at www.strategyx, that's StrategyEx.com.